It's 8:35 and we're live. A pleasant good evening to you and welcome to the weekly Beyond the Headlines program. I'm your host this evening, Odette Campbell. And I just want to check with our producers that we do have audio because I don't think I'm hearing myself in the headpiece. But can you just, if you could confirm that you're hearing me, that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists this evening, Mr. Lance Garraway. He attended Grenada Teachers College. He taught us in George's Anglican Senior School. He wants me to be certain to say Heinzie. He went on to pursue studies in business and insurance in Toronto. He returned to work in Grenada in 1979. Guess what? He left again in December of 1979. A little later, I'll ask him, what was that in and out kind of business? Since then, he has been self-employed as a certified financial planner for the last 40 years, residing in Canada. Mr. Montgomery Alexander, he's a Grenadian professional residing in the United States. He's a former general secretary of the GUPC. And for those of you who are not too old to know, that was the Grenada Union of Progressive Cooperatives, and he served there from 1987 to 1993. He's a certified accountant by training, and he was a teacher at the Holy Innocents Anglican School at La Digue in St. Andrew, and so he has teaching under his belt as well. We move on to Mr. Ken Lewis. He's a management economist based in New York. He has been a project manager at the Metropolitan Transport Association. We hear about the MTA, that's the Metropolitan Transport Association. He is a founder of the Drivers Cooperative, which is a ride-hailing company in New York City, and has a background in engineering and economics. He has taught economics at U.S. colleges. He worked at the Government Information Services in Grenada and served as a journalist with the Free West Indian, and he was a former manager at the Central Garage. And it's also important to know that he's a former teacher at the National College. And ladies and gentlemen, this evening, I'm pleased to present my co-host, Mr. Garfield Bufford. He's Jamaican by birth, calling, and nationhood. He now resides in Antigua, where he serves as head of news and current affairs at the Antigua Broadcasting Services. He's one of the Caribbean's leading news producers and presenters, and has a huge following in the region and in the diaspora as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to present the panelists. It's an all-male panel this evening, and I'm sending you right over to my co-host, Mr. Garfield Bufford. Garfield, is all over to you.
Thank you so much, Odette, and it's a fantastic pleasure to be with you. And let's say good evening, and well, certainly not only good evening, but good morning, good afternoon to wherever our listeners and our viewers are joining us across the world, because this is a global audience and a global program. And let's say a special good evening to not only to yourself, but all the panelists. Of course, Ken Lewis, Montgomery Alexander, and Lance Garraway. Let's start this evening, gentlemen. And if you permit me, Odette, let's start with our panelists with this one. In relation to the outstanding 4%, which has been a bit of a bone of contention for public servants in Grenada, the government has indicated that it is not quite in a position to pay that. The workers through their representative unions are insisting that it be paid. Let's start with Ken Lewis, the economist here. What do you make of that, Ken, who is pretty much on the reasonable side of this argument?
Well, I think the teachers and public workers are due the 4%. And it's even more important, as I've been asking about the figures, and it seems to be like $13 million. And that's, yes, we understand that there was COVID and it's a bit difficult, revenues have been down and so on. But at the same time, the government found $63 million and probably 20 more to buy out Grenlec when they were not under pressure. So if you can spend this kind, in fact, they're even talking about 30 million more to put traffic lights. So if you can spend that kind of money, then of course you can give 30. But there's also another very important factor. When you give Grenlec that money, they go away with it. When you give that company $30 million for traffic light, they go away with it. If you want this economy to be revived and you want to spend this only $13 million good, give it to teachers, give it to public workers, because they will spend it back in the shops. They will regenerate the economy. So this is the better way to go, and government should find their money.
Let me go over to Montgomery Alexander. Do you agree, Montgomery?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Ken. The issue is that the teachers are due their money. It's their money. They should be paid. They've worked for that money. They're not asking for a favor from the government. They turn up to work every day. They teach. They work in various offices, and they are due to be paid. And any serious government is going to take the teachers seriously and pay them the money. There's an agreement to pay the money. Okay, they have earned that money. Why is the government treating them as though they're second-class citizens? They need to be paid their monies. And as Ken said, they found money to buy Grenlec when the electricity company, when they were not under pressure. Word is that they're going to spend $30 million for street lights. in a place as Grenada that has 3 corners and 2 bridges. You tell me you want to spend $30 million for street lights? That can't be real. And you don't want to pay the teachers their money. And as Ken said also, when you pay the electricity people their money, it goes to the Grenada, not penny states. You pay the people for the street light, it goes out. The teachers' money, the public servant money, that money is going to regenerate and revive the economy and spend right in Grenada. It makes economic sense to pay the teachers the money.
Let me go, in asking Lance Garraway this question, Lance, let me ask you first your position. Do you agree with the two gentlemen before you, Ken and Montgomery, on this? And then I'm going to ask from another perspective, almost playing devil's advocate. Let me ask you your perspective first.
Absolutely, thanks. I certainly agree with both speakers, especially on the money side. And it's in my estimation not so much the money now, which is important, but it's the severe lack of trust in a government that can find monies to pay $173 million to a corporation that, as Ken says, and we all know, is taking that money overseas. Whereas the agreement over 3 years would only have been 43 million EC dollars extra over 3 years. So to me, if government had used its efforts in the same way, and if government had been, in my estimation, transparent in where the $173 million came from, perhaps teachers could have been in a more, not conciliatory, but a more amiable way to try and find a solution to this. Yes, the government says they're struggling because of COVID, and that's understandable. But when there's no trust, this is where we end up. And the teachers, the only option they have now is to demonstrate and to make sure that the pressure is kept on the government to make that payment.
I'm going to ask you three gentlemen, thanks so much, Lance, for that. Let me ask you three gentlemen, in terms of, is there a fear, and this is playing devil's advocate now because we don't quite have a representative from the government on the show. So let's play devil's advocate. Is there a fear, do you think, from the administration that if they were to agree to do this now for the teachers, that other public servants might be chomping at the bits to come and say, well, but look, you owe us this outstanding from here and we want it now? Do you think that the government is fearful that this could open the floodgates for other public servants to demand payments in this way? Let me start with Ken on this again.
Yeah, well, I mean, briefly, I think the government of late has been government. It has to be, in a poor country as ours, about inspiring people. Inspiration is one of the. I mean, you can't go and lift productivity as a government, but you could put systems in place. You could encourage people, you could show people things to do. But in order to do that, you must have people's confidence. And over, this government is showing that it has little confidence in the Grenadian people. And that is a very worrying sign. And you could take it from the way how they dealt with the nutmeg and cocoa board, the way how they refused to pay them the gratuity they owed. It's just over and over. They're consistently, I mean, I don't know if I could use that word on radio, but screwing them the little man. And I think that's a real problem for confidence in the country, because we're a poor country and all we have is our people to really go forward and develop this country. And so we need better confidence and cooperation with government if we are to do that.
But do you think, I hear your point on that, Ken, on this, but do you think that the government has that fear, possibly a visceral kind of fear that, look, if they were to do this now for the teachers with the 4%, that it's going to incite other public servants to say, well, look, okay, if you can pay the teachers, you can pay us as well?
Well, I as far as I understand it, the 3%, the 4% is not just teachers. It's also for civil servants also. But the teachers have been the really militant group. But the thing is, I think people are due, and government have to find the money. It's difficult, but the government has gotten loans and they've misspent them the money, as we've said in the first question. So, whether it opened the floodgates, I don't know, but it's what is due.
Yes. Would it coming to Montgomery? Would it be 13 million, Montgomery, if it's if it's not only for the teachers but other civil servants, as Ken mentioned? Would the government be mindful that possibly it would not be able to foot that bill if it were to take on this expenditure? What do you think on that?
Well, the issue is that there is no trust. You can't take the word of the government. The government doesn't have confidence in the people, and the people doesn't have confidence in the government. And in such a situation, nothing happens. All you have is confrontation. Because if the government would level with the people as to what the situation is, then the people would understand. But the government has not been level with the people. They have never leveled with the people. They've always kept secrets. And in keeping secrets, it's hard for any public worker or any teacher, anybody, to begin to take the word of the government. Because the agreement was signed to pay the money. The teachers had an agreement. Everybody had an agreement. The government reneged on the agreement. So when they would have reneged on the agreement, how would the people be able to have confidence? And the other issue is that the government has been elected to govern. That's the responsibility. It's not my responsibility or Ken's responsibility to find the money. They are in the seat of government. They have to know what commitments are coming up and how they're going to deal with them. But it's unfair to turn today to say, well, we don't have money, so we can't pay you. Could I do this? Could any one of the teachers do the same thing with the bank? So the owe Scotia, one of the banks, they owe Barclays, the mortgage, or they owe one of the car companies for the car. Could they go and say to the bank, well, you know what, I'm not going to pay my mortgage today because I don't have money? It doesn't work that way.
Okay, so if I could come in here for a quick second, I'm hearing a couple of things, and in the last 6 or so months, we're in May, so let's say in the last 4 months, we've had several programs where this issue has been discussed, and we've had government representatives and a couple of things. So the government has explained that it paid, it was forced into paying off Grenlec for the shares, WRB for the Grenlec shares, and it was capital expenditure that was used, it could not be used for recurrent expenditure, one. And then the second point is that I'm not sure it's fair to say that the government has not leveled with the people, because they have issued several press statements. They have had several briefings where the matter has been discussed. We had statements come out earlier in the year, and the Prime Minister has given addresses. We've had the Minister for Education leveling with the people, so to speak. I've heard Mr. Alexander saying that the government has not leveled with the people. So is it really accurate to say that?
Can I add to that, Odette?
Sure.
When the government says that they were forced into purchasing Grenlec, to me, that's not a truthful statement. The government took advice from the World Bank, and they introduced laws in the country that changed the contract that was held between Grenlec and the Grenadian government. So it was an action initiated by the government. I'm not talking about whether it was a good action or not a good action. I'm just trying to put on the table what in fact happened. So that action triggered what ended up as a payment from the government. Now, following on that payment, journalists in Grenada, and I've listened to the news reports, have been asking, where did the money come from to pay $173 million to Grenlec? And the answer was, it came from capital expenditures. So I just reviewed an interview with both Minister Boyne and Joseph last night. And when asked about that question, Mr. Boyne explained that the budget puts an allocation for capital expenditures, and there are a number of projects. And when they receive, and I'm paraphrasing, when they receive grants, loans, and revenues, they use that for the projects to be completed. If they do not receive it, then those monies are not allocated. So the question is, since you are talking about capital projects and allocation, what projects did you not proceed with and therefore use the money that you already had, 173 million, to pay for Grenlec? To me, if that question was answered truthfully and openly, people would be more amiable, people would be more understanding of what the government is doing. But they're going in circles with that. They have not given an answer to Grenadians to say, well, we had 10 projects, we got money for 5, and of those 5, we only decided to do 3, and therefore we took 2, the money for 2, to pay Grenlec. So in the environment with all of that, it is natural that teachers would feel very upset that you're paying somebody else, and here we are with a contract, and you don't want to honor it, and you're not telling us the truth. That's my view of it.
I take your point. Thank you so much, Odette, for that point, because it raises other issues as well. I suppose the next time, for example, when we have a representative of the government, we'll want to put a pointed question to them to ask whether or not there was any consideration given to a budget reallocation. Governments do that all the time. They reallocate expenditure from capex to recurrent, etc. I mean, for example, capital budgets have been slashed in some cases. Capital budgets have been added to in some cases. So we'd certainly want to put that to them. But let me get just for clarity for our listeners and our viewers. In terms of the 4% that's owed to the teachers, there's been a figure of 13 million. And that's EC dollars. EC dollars, and this is owed to the teachers only for the 4%. Is that the case? That's the case.
That's my understanding.
Mr. Montgomery.
I think what we have here is 2 sets of unions, Garfield. It's teachers and public sector unions. And I think it is imperative to note that when this started off, the government was blanketly saying that we don't know when we can pay this money. And we have come some distance with the government now saying that we will review this at the end of December. So there's been some incremental steps. The Public Workers Union are saying, okay, we don't mind foregoing it at this point. However, we'd like to have interest payments for every time that it remains unpaid. So those are some of the issues here. And I think we've seen some incremental steps, and the government and the Public Workers Union reported on talks that were held last week. So one never knows if they're inching towards some kind of settlement. Not sure.
Let me ask you, Odette, and it's crucial to point out to our audiences as well. So the government has not said it is not going to pay it. The government has asked for deferral. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay. Let me come back to Montgomery Alexander on this. Thanks so much for that, Odette, in terms of the clarification. That's crucial. In terms of what's the aggregate figure as far as you're aware of for all of the workers who are eligible for this 4%? The teachers are 13 million EC dollars. If the other civil servants were to be paid this 4% as they are due, what would that be? What would that aggregate figure be?
I don't have that number.
Okay, so but it would be significantly higher, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it'd be more than what the teachers are getting, because it's all the unions together.
Right. Okay. So would the other unions, would they be amenable to deferring on their workers to get this 4% while the teachers get? Let me come back to Ken Lewis on this.
Odette, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 43. The agreement was $43 million over 3 years or something like that.
So I have the government statement here, and the statement that the government issued on February the 3rd said the increase will add $13.2 million to the public sector wage bill at a time when the government is facing a significant drop in revenue due to the economic impact of COVID-19. So the government is saying that the increase will add $13.2 million to the public sector wage bill.
All right. So that seems to be the aggregate figure then. That seems to be the aggregate figure for everybody then, 13.2 million.
Based on the statement issued by the government, yes.
One year. That was for 1 year, though, not 3 years. 1 year. Okay,
so if we multiply that by 3, so that would be around about 39 million or so.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it comes back to my question again. Would the other unions be amenable to saying we're deferring for all workers, let the teachers get their pay? Would that be amenable to the other unions? Montgomery Alexander.
Well, I can't speak for the other unions as to whether they would be amenable to that. They would have to determine how they want to work it. Odette said that the Public Workers Union said that they would agree to take it. They would take it in December, but they need to get interest paid on it. I don't know. That's what she said. I don't know. I don't have that information. But the issue is, if the government has to pay the workers, then they should make some provision to pay the workers, and is for them to work out an agreement. But initially, there was an agreement that was not kept. So the teachers are saying that they want the money now, pay them the money now, and the government should find the money to pay them. And I go back to the whole issue as to Grenlec. They found the money to pay Grenlec. Okay, so you need to find the money to pay your teachers. What is the problem now? When the teachers have to be paid, they teach your children. They look after the nation's children to teach them on a daily basis. Why shouldn't the teachers receive the money?
Let me come back to you, Montgomery Alexander, on that. Do you think that the teachers, let's look at the end game now. Let's look at a resolution to this impasse. Do you think that the teachers, in your view, could be more amenable to saying, we'll defer it, we'll take it later down because we are mindful of the challenges the government faces with COVID-19, but it has to be on the basis that there's interest paid or some other sort of inducement or some other sort of incentive to ensure that we can not get the base rate, but get more on it. Do you think that could be a more reasonable position for the teachers to take, Montgomery?
I'm not sure. That could be, but with all the bad blood that has went on already, you think if I'm a teacher, I'm about to take any word from the government? I mean, you had the president of the union had to go to the St. David's police station for questioning just for a march in the land of his birth. What did he do? What crime did he commit to be harassed by the police, to be intimidated? There is Mayday and there's security at every corner in the town of St. George. Why? Workers are marching. Mayday is Workers' Day. Do you think I'm about to negotiate with this government now? If I'm a teacher? No. You pay me my money. You have showed your hand already. Okay? You pay me my money.
So let me go. Ken Lewis, why do you think the other workers who are also owed this 4% have not shown that level of intensity with their calls to the government to pay this 4%? Why is it the teachers pretty much the only ones who are on the front lines of this?
Well, the teachers' pay were docked. I mean, not too long ago, the teachers made an action, and the government in one of the most, I mean, I hate to use this word, imbecilic action, actually went and took money from the teachers, docked their pay. I mean, that's like shoving your hands in an ant's nest. Why would you do that? You know, and they did that. So this government has been operating in a very senile manner. I want to use that word because this is just bad government. I mean, what do you gain by docking people's pay for making a walkout? You actually just encouraging them. And that has been the impasse. The government has been, as Montgomery just mentioned, arresting a leader. That's like a Gary action, you know? And I mean, and Grenada has had a history with that. We are a peaceful people. Grenada has one of the lowest crime rates in the Caribbean. But people should know by now, don't mess with our people. Don't treat us as though we are underlings and, you know, less than human. And I think, to be honest with you, I'm not using these words lightly because in a lot of ways, this is the way the government has been treating teachers in particular.
So let me just interject here on a couple notes on a point of order in Parliament. Mr. Alexander, I have a question for you. I want you to forget that the Grenlec payment was made, the settlement was made. Let's forget that. I want you to think that this is COVID and you're the Prime Minister, and I want you to forget that Grenlec was paid off. I want to ask you where you'd find the money considering COVID and its impact on the country's revenue. So I want you to think about that for a little bit. Ken, let me just come in here on a point of clarity that the teachers' union president was not arrested. He was asked to report to the St. David police station for questioning. Based on what we have heard from him and his utterances, he was questioned about the marches that were held 2 weeks prior. We know that we're in COVID, there are regulations, and I understand there were concerns about the violation of the COVID protocol. That is something that the police pointed out even after the first march was held. So on this program, we tried to be factual, and I just want to be certain that we don't misconstrue the facts. He was not arrested. He was not detained. He was asked to report to the St. David police station for questioning. Montgomery, let me ask you, let's put aside Grenlec for a little bit, and I'm going to ask you, sitting as Prime Minister, COVID has struck, your revenues have been impacted. Where would you find the monies from to pay the teachers and public servants?
Well, I can't divorce myself from the Grenlec issue. Let's deal with the issue at hand. I don't think it's fair to hypothesize. There was no Grenlec issue. I'm sitting as the Prime Minister, and now I have to make a decision. The Prime Minister and the government has not been very forthcoming with the people as to where the money came from to pay Grenlec. That's the first thing. If there is transparency in that issue, it would be much easier if I'm the Prime Minister of Grenada to say to the people, I got the money from not doing the bridge in La Poterie, or I didn't do the bridge in La Sauce, and I used that money to pay Grenlec. Right now, I could show you the books because I'm an accountant. There is no money to pay you. If you want to come and see it and have your own people to go through the books, you check it out, okay? I can't pay you. But based upon the revenues I'm projecting, by December, I should be able to pay your money. And I'm going to in good faith, I'm going to pay you with interest. I'm going to put interest on it, whether it's 2% or 3% interest. You'd be paid with interest. And additionally, I'm going to give you back the money that I took from you when I dock your pay. Because as a worker, you have the right to take industrial action. You dock the workers' pay, and you have the workers treated in a way like they're second-class citizens, and then you still want to make sacrifices. It doesn't work that way. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't dock my pay today and then tell me to wait for you to pay me next week. It doesn't work that way. If you take yours, then give me mine. And if you want me to wait on you, then give me back what you took from me.
All right. We're being advised that we need to take a commercial break by our producer. So let's do that, and we come back. We pay some bills, and we come right back on Beyond the Headlines. This evening, we're looking at current affairs.
Every action we take impacts the lives of others around us. The Grenlec Community Partnership Initiative, GCPI, has been working with Grenadian organizations to impact communities directly. Giving back to communities we serve is fundamental to the way we do business. And every year, more lives are touched across Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. In education, sports, health, infrastructure, social services, and beyond.
Do you know what time it is? You guessed right, it's detox time again. At Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. Purchase our 7-day cleansing pack for only $500. Includes everything you need for a complete total body cleanse. Cleanse your blood, kidney, liver, and colon. This cleanse will help you lighten up and get rid of the excess. Also available are our special product Detox Combo Pack for only $100. Try our single detox products starting from $40. Check us out now. Belmont St. George's, close to the Fall Edge area, or call us on 231-6642, 449-7753, or 418-7115. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. Detox, your way to health.
Total is one of the world's largest oil companies with a top quality line of lubricants. Total Lubricants has a full product line from passenger cars, motorcycle, heavy industrial equipment, mining, trucking, agriculture, and manufacturing machines and vehicles. Total Lubricants, winning championships in motorsports, including Formula One and World Rally Championships. Total Lubricants are available at all Rubis service stations, leading automotive shops, and distributed by Huggins.
We are taking pride in outstanding performance. We are encouraging and recognizing innovation. We are committed to continuously doing things better, with enhanced services coming soon. Yes, we are here for you. Check us out today for your financial need. GUT Credit Union, it's where you belong.
How going on, boy?
Hey, good old things.
Hey, Daisy.
Yeah.
Boy, in line, boy. Your house looking a real good day.
Boy, it's thanks to the hard-working and professional staff at the Housing Authority of Grenada. They handled me real nice. They did my plan, they did the construction, and I didn't even have to worry about a thing. They were there with me every step of the way, supervising the job, asking me about my concerns, giving me feedback as the house took shape. They were there from start to finish, and even put the keys in the palm of my hand. I give them an A++ for customer service.
Oh, it's people from housing bad, boy.
Boy, not bad. Excellent. If you're thinking about constructing your home, why not consult the Housing Authority of Grenada? You could visit them right down in the Sandino complex, or give them a call, 440-1015 or 440-1016. Or check out their website, hag473.com. They go handle you. They go jog your blocks, they go draw your plan, they go tote your materials. Hey man, where you going? The Housing Authority of Grenada is your choice for affordable housing and a stress-free construction experience.
And welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. This evening we're looking at current affairs and we're taking a look at the history from the outside looking in. And this evening we have panelists who are based in Toronto, Canada and in the United States. And I now go back to our co-host for this evening, Garfield Bufford. He's our Jamaican friend who is based in Antigua, head of news and current affairs at Antigua Broadcasting Services. Garfield, it's back over to you.
Thank you so much, Odette, and our thanks to Ken Lewis, Montgomery Alexander, and Lance Garraway for staying with us. Just to wrap up on this matter of the contentious matter in relation to the 4%. So, gentlemen, in about a minute or so, I just want to get your quick reactions in terms of where do we go from here. Clearly, I don't think that you think that we've crossed the Rubicon, that there's no return. Obviously, there must be a way to deal with this situation in some sort of, find some sort of resolution. So let me start with Ken Lewis. Where do we go from here? What is some sort of resolution that you've seen then?
I think the negotiations should continue. I think the government should actually, negotiate with a much better and more amicable way with the union, try to pay at least some of the money and put some for later, but again, get the union to come in so they do some and then do some later.
All right, Montgomery?
Yeah, I agree with Ken. I think the government has to reset the process. It has gone off the rails, and it's incumbent upon the government to reset it. Say, okay, let's take a timeout, like in basketball, and find a way to get to the union to negotiate in good faith. And good faith meaning that they recognize the situation that they're being faced with, they recognize the severity of the consequences of how things have escalated, and they say to the union, okay, here is it. We're gonna pay you the money in installments. So we had made the first installment, let's say in August, with the big a second installment in maybe October. And then we make the last installment in December, or something of that sort of stuff. Because I think once you start giving something, you are going to be showing good faith. It's like if you're back in the day, you owe Postal, okay, $1,000. You can't pay $1,000, but you go to Mr. Postal and say, okay, I could pay $25 a week. He take the money, okay. I think the government needs to use that sort of strategy of trying to pay the money by increments rather than saying, I don't have it, I can't pay you. Saying I don't have it is not an answer.
Okay. And finally, Lance, on the matter of where do we go from here?
I agree with what both Montgomery and Ken has said in terms of the financial issue, but there's another issue. And the other issue is the issue that may seem small, but it's the big elephant in the room that deals with trust. It deals with building the bridge so that you can have these discussions. Politicians of all parties are leaders in their communities, and there's no sense in staying silent when teachers are bashed for exercising their rights, when teachers are demonized for exercising their rights. All politicians should speak out against that and try and create the atmosphere where at least the teachers and the government can get back together and find a solution. There's always a solution when you sit and talk. But be honest and outspoken and be transparent about the issues. I mean, they would understand. They're living in Grenada. They know what the reality is. They're living among their fellow citizens. So create the atmosphere where you can sit, talk, and be truthful about what's going forward.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. And certainly we should not forget the other stakeholders in this process who are the students. That makes it so crucial that there be a resolution to this, because we can't countenance. The students have already paid a very high price from COVID in terms of the hybridized learning environments and the kind of lockdowns and shutdowns and so on. We should ensure that whatever happens, that they're not affected adversely by the situation. Odette, I think it's time for us to go on to another issue now, which is that another contentious matter in relation to the airport and a suggestion that it be privatized. It has come from an Egyptian businessman who was invested heavily in Grenada, but his comments riled people and rubbed them the wrong way, right?
Good. And we do have an insert. And so what we'll do is we cross over to production team. They'd assist us with that, and we come back for more discussions.
The Maurice Bishop International Airport was constructed from 1979 to 1984 and is seen by many Grenadians as a symbol of the progress made by a revolutionary Grenada. However, recently, the MBIA, which was heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, has experienced a massive decrease of visitors and revenue. Owner of the Silver Sands Resort and Egyptian businessman Naguib Sawaris, referring to the need for an increase in visitors once normal worldwide travel resumes, said the government of Grenada should consider the privatization of the airport. Sawaris directed his comments to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell. He said the airport would be better run in the hands of the private sector of Grenada.
Privatize the airport, give it to the private sector. We definitely can do a better job, and because the only thing we will make sure is that when a tourist arrives, in 2 minutes he's outside. This we can do. We will also make sure that there is comfort, there is ease. We will fire anybody that will not meet the tourist with a smile. We can even create a lot of services at the airport. We can improve the catering. We can have more planes coming in. We can make it easier for airlines to open up and so on, because there's always a difference between private and public sector.
This statement has resonated like a bitter slap to many Grenadians who have since taken to various mediums to voice their outrage on the hotelier's statement. President General of the Grenada Technical Allied and Workers Union, Andre Lewis, expressed his displeasure at the statement.
Maurice Bishop International Airport, built by the People's Revolutionary Government, where our blood, sweat and tears went into in terms of voluntary work, and where the management of the airport has been doing a very good job in managing the airport, to privatize the airport. But worse than that is his comment that if he has to manage the airport, or if it is in private sector hands, in which one can assume that he may be interested in being part owner of the airport, that workers will be dismissed for not smiling. That begs into question what the workers at Silver Sands may be experiencing.
He said the statement raises questions about the selling out of the country.
And to see government officials there, and to hear people clapping in the background, it speaks about the need for us to be concerned as to the selling out of our properties in Grenada And to the people that comes into Grenada, yes, they're investors and we welcome investors. But you must have respect for our people.
A concerned citizen, John Anthony Rollo, who served on the construction team of the airport, said Grenadians should be concerned by the lobbying for the privatization of the airport.
That airport was built with sacrifice from poor Grenadians, all poor. They weren't wealthy people build it. And with solidarity from a Cuban people, poor people again. What I'm trying to say is, we cannot let this happen, brothers and sisters. This is the blood, sweat, and tears that went down in that toilet over 4.5 years to put that structure together. It would be disastrous if we would let this happen today.
He told GBN the statement was nothing short of a slap in his face. For long-standing journalist Hamlet Mark, the most offensive thing about the call to privatize the airport was not the call itself, but the loud, enthusiastic applause. He said the government must categorically state that it has no intention of privatizing the airport. Trelawna Charles, GBN News.
All right, so we have that insert there, Garfield.
Indeed. All right, so that has obviously struck a chord. Thank you so much, Odette. So let's go over to our panelists. There was applause at the gathering that he said it. Was the applause justified? Was he onto something, or did he get this one dead wrong? Let me start with Lance on this.
I'm going to skip the answering of the applause because to me the applause is secondary to a very unfortunate and wrong speech that businessman made at that center. I want us to focus on what the real issue is, and the real issue is the airport being privatized or not. I recall a speech by Maurice Bishop in, I think, Hunter College in New York, in which he spoke about the airport as an ancient dream of the Grenadian people. That dream was materialized. The airport is within every single Grenadian's being. And I don't think there's any Grenadian who will willingly give up part of their limbs just for money. The unfortunate statement about smiling, we don't have to be smiling. We have to be professional. We have to say, welcome to Grenada, enjoy your stay. When Montgomery is coming back, we say, welcome back. Glad to see you back home. We don't have to be smiling like, I won't go down that road. That's totally unfortunate. However, I believe there needs to be an open discussion about whether the airport should be privatized, not privatized, or find some way of doing it. He mentioned that private enterprise could run it better. I recall a World Bank study, I think it was done 2017, 2018, and they ranked the 20 most successful airports in the world. Top of the line was Singapore International Airport, included airports in Japan, one in Canada, some in the States. But the interesting thing was, of that 20, only 5 airports were fully privatized. 5 of those airports were fully privatized. 7 of them were totally government-owned, including the Singapore airport. And the majority, 8 of them, were a mixture of government and private enterprise. And we need to have that discussion, because just to say that the airport is making a profit, to me, is not a good enough answer.
Yeah.
That airport is an essential asset of the country, and it must be leveraged to produce the best revenue that can be had without giving up control. And there are models in the world that can show you how that's done. So the applause, to me, while it's unfortunate, it's a minimal issue, we need to stay focused on this asset of ours. What do we do with it? And how do we best make use of that asset?
Let me come to, thank you so much, Lance. Let me come to Montgomery on this. Do you think that the issue should not be, in other words, is the airport such a crucial part of the blood, sweat, and tears, the ethos of the country, the tradition, the history of the country, the soul of the country, that it should not even be countenanced, the issue of privatization? Montgomery, do you think that's the case?
The issue of privatization is very heavy, extremely heavy, especially on Maurice Bishop International Airport. And I, for one, as a national Grenada, would not countenance the privatization of the airport, especially under the circumstances where you have this regime in power and you have this gentleman, this investor, coming and making those statements saying that people should smile when somebody comes to the airport. And if you don't smile, then you're going to be out of a job. You don't treat people that way. We in Grenada, we don't treat people that way. We have long passed that already. The issue of us smiling is a caricature of how Black people used to be portrayed in films back in the 20s and 30s and 40s. You have a Black guy smiling as a fool. We no fool. They're professionals. When I go to Heathrow International, I'm met by the immigration officer. Good day, sir. What's the nature of your business here? How long you be staying? And that is it. Enjoy London. That's it. And they move on. They don't smile. They do the job. And our people do the job. They've been doing the job under very difficult conditions. And those who applauded either because they didn't understand what the man said, or maybe they just applauding just to please him. The airport should not be privatized. And if there's going to be any discussion about privatization, we don't want Mr. Sawarish to come and start the discussion for us. It is something that we of ourselves would start. If we believe we need to do something with the airport, not him. He has his billions. He could spend his billions wherever he wants, but not at Maurice Bishop International Airport, not over my dead body.
Are you obviously very, very strong about that, Montgomery, on that? Let me come to Ken Lewis on this. Ken, is there a customer service challenge subliminally that he was talking about that needs to be addressed there? Or is he just absolutely off mark, off the rails when he talks about this issue of smiling?
Well, yeah, he's off the mark. I mean, I have traveled, we all have traveled, and I don't see people at airports smiling. I mean, it's a serious business. It's people are coming into your country, and you got to make sure that they're coming in legally and stuff. So people are not smiling. I think he is talking of sure what he would want for his guests to probably go through. That's the way how I could read it. But again, it's another case of when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. People, we have a particular history. In 1970, Lord Brunlow blocked a beach in St. David's. And basically, that is what made the Grenada Revolution. From that day onwards, that's it, you know? So I hope this is not a watershed moment and we can really look at changes without it being really, any sort of upheaval and things like that. But when you go to Rome, you kind of try to understand what's important to people. And this, I heard John Rollo talking a while ago, and it got me so emotional. For people who don't know, because I think Mr. Rollo is now blind, John Rollo was the guy when the revolution started. They had this project. Gary had started it before. There was talk about, even before in the colonial times, trying to build an airport there. And this was to be realized. And so John Rollo was one of those early project guys on this airport, even before the Cubans came in, before equipment came in. He was one of those people as in Bob Evans and so on. So it was emotional to hear me talking about it, because this airport represents more than money. You know, Bob Marley said something. He said, some people are so poor, all they have is money. And that's the case of the investor. I don't even want to call his name. I'm sorry. Because you really don't understand a people if you could come and say this airport should be privatized.
Yes. Let me come out we have to take a break shortly. And of course, Odette will remind us that 9:30 break is coming up. But let me go back to Lance on this. In terms of the management of the airport, are you satisfied? You mentioned, for example, that there are models internationally, possibly public-private partnerships, concession agreements, etc. Is one of those something? Is time now to look at one of those? Is that the right time? taking, for example, out of the way the issue that was raised and the comment that was made by the investor, but talking about this particular issue, is it now time to have a discussion about looking at some model that would be profitable while maintaining the importance of the tradition of the airport and the context of the airport for Grenadians?
Right off the bat, I would say yes. And it's always time to reevaluate your assets and see how they are working for you, right? Categorically, the airport must remain Grenadian, right? So those are my two basic platform statements. It must remain Grenadian, and it should always be reviewed in terms of how well it's doing, what other things we can do. Can we lease it out? Can we lease out portions of it to private enterprise? How can we build out? Can we put another runway? All of these things should come up because the airport is an integral part of our tourism structure. It's an integral part of our Grenadian travel back and forth, and also for our commercial activity. So it's not just a static asset. It's an asset that has to be looked at, reviewed, changed around, remodeled, and have a discussion on what's the best approach to go forward.
What if this best approach, Lance, involves not being Grenadian? In other words, means a divestment of the airport.
But that can never be a best approach.
You're saying that. You're saying there's no best
that
approach
can't be a best approach because there is data out there that shows there are models of running airports successfully, financially successful, that are combinations of either government-owned completely or a mixture of government and private enterprise. So we don't have to give up our main asset. And an airport in a country as ours is a monopoly, right? Yes. And we have to own that monopoly.
Absolutely. Sorry to rush you a little bit, Lance, on this. Let me come to Ken finally before we go to a break. Ken, as the economist with us, let me ask you, what if you were to have the magic wand tomorrow? If you were to have that authority tomorrow to make a particular change in the way the airport is being managed now and run now by the government, what would be that change? What would you do tomorrow if you have that power?
Well, training. I think that's not. It doesn't only go for the airport. It goes for a whole lot of assets in Grenada that can be improved. It's about people and about people being from a better trade. But I wanted to make another point related, is that this idea that the private sector does everything better is a myth. Many countries are doing PPP, relation, private, public, and partnerships, and so on. And we could look at things like that. But I think in many of these public enterprises, many times you give it to the private sector, and they in fact are run worse. In the case of Grenada, where you have one international airport, I wouldn't do that to the private sector because I think it's more of a strategic asset than just money. It's making.
Absolutely.
Can I just add one thing to that?
Yes, please. Yes, please, Lance.
Margaret Thatcher was one of the first prime ministers to go down the privatization route when she became prime minister in England. And very quickly, one or two companies bought up about 8 of the major airports in and around a very concentrated area. Eventually, the government had to come back a couple of years after and force that company to sell, I think it was 5 of those airports. Those airports that were privatized, they had to resell 5 of them because they grew such a huge monopoly. Service dropped, costs increased. So I agree with Ken. Private enterprise is not always the best option. Private enterprise has one goal: maximize profits.
Yes.
Government has a goal of making its citizens wealthier, and we have to work with those two things.
All right, Montgomery, like about 30 seconds, Montgomery, because we have to take a break. In terms of the investment that is, I'm pretty sure, crucial, massive capital expenditure is involved in airports and other similar assets. Is that the perfect opportunity now to engage in public-private partnerships? And who do you think would be a good option for that?
But hold it there. Montgomery, let me just ask you if you could hold there, and you'll use like the next 1 minute as your thinking time. We must take this break. Sorry about that. We must take this break and come right back on Beyond the Headlines. So you have some thinking time, Monty. We'll be back when we come back after this break.
Isn't there something you've always wanted but just can't afford? The National Lotteries Authority's Lotto Jackpot is $136,000. Play today for chances at fulfilling that dream. Lotto. Play and win a lot of money.
Good evening once again, viewers and listeners. Welcome back. It's time for the National Lottery Authority's Lotto draw number 3207 for this evening, Monday, the 3rd of May, 2021. The estimated jackpot is $136,000. Join me once again is Ms. Josephine Clark. She's representing PKF Accountants and Business Advisors. Let's find out what the free ticket letter will be for this evening. Good luck. And this evening's free ticket letter is... Free ticket letter for this evening is the letter H as in house. That's H as in house. And it's time to reveal tonight's 5 winning numbers for $136,000. Good luck. And the first number is... number 16, the second number 27, the third number 21, fourth number 31, and the final number 22. Of course, we got to recap for your benefit. The free ticket letter was H. That's H as in house. H as in house. And the 5 winning numbers. Let's recap. Starting with the first number. First number up was 16. That's 1616. The second number, 27. 27. Third number, 21. 21. Fourth was 31. 31. And the fifth and final, 22. That's 22. This has been Lotto Play and Win a Lot. You got these numbers. Congratulations to you. Don't forget to get your tickets tomorrow, God's will, and do continue to support sports, culture, and nation building. Have a good night.
By now, you should know that the early bird catches the worm. So, what are you waiting for? Put wings to your feet and head to your nearest scratch seller. For every quick 7s scratch ticket you buy at $2, the NLA gives you 7 chances at winning as much as $7,000. Scratch the entire play area for your 7 chances at revealing as much 7s and win the corresponding prizes. Win easy with Scratch. Must be 18 or older to play.
Every action we take impacts the lives of others around us. The Grenlec Community Partnership Initiative, GCPI, has been working with Grenadian organizations to impact communities directly. Giving back to communities we serve is fundamental to the way we do business. And every year, more lives are touched across Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. In education, sports, health, infrastructure, social services, and beyond.
Rubigas. Get cooking. Rubigas, clean, safe, and reliable LPG is the perfect solution for your commercial and everyday needs. For cooking at home or barbecuing, choose Rubigas LPG cylinders. Available in a variety of sizes from 20 to 100 pound cylinders. Rubigas LPG, clean, safe, reliable. Are you cooking with Rubigas?
Get Rubis, get going. Do you know what time it is? You guessed right, it's detox time again at Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. Purchase our 7-day cleansing pack for only $500. Includes everything you need for a complete total body cleanse. Cleanse your blood, kidney, liver, and colon. This cleanse will help you lighten up and get rid of the excess. Also available are our special product detox combo pack for only $100. Try our single detox products starting from $40. Check us out now. Belmont St. George's, close to the Fall Edge area, or call us on 231-6642, 449-7753, or 418-7115. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. Detox, your way to health.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. This evening, we're looking at current affairs issues, and we're taking a look from the outside looking in. We have in the diaspora this evening Garraway. He's based in Toronto, Canada. Montgomery Alexander is based in the U.S. and Mr. Ken Lewis. And I am so happy to have my co-host with me, Mr. Garfield Bufford. He is Jamaican and he is based in Antigua, has a huge following in the region and in the diaspora as well. The debate thus far has focused on the stalemate between government and public sector workers union, public sector unions regarding the 4% increase, and we've also looked at a call for the privatization of the airport. Some interesting answers have been coming forth and passionate debate raging on the social media platforms. One person says the best answer on the airport, nothing is intrinsically wrong with privatizing the airport. The money saved and earned could be spent on essential services like health and education. And this evening we want to move on to another subject, which is that of mandatory COVID vaccination. But we did have to put a pause on a question on the airport, so we'll take that. And just to let you know as well, you can call 440-1252. 440-1252 will be entertaining your calls and segue into the whole issue of whether COVID vaccination should be mandatory, especially for healthcare workers. So I'm going back to my co-host Garfield on this.
Thank you so much, Odette. So let's very quickly, Montgomery, just before the break, we just asked whether or not is this the time to look at possibly other modalities such as public-private partnerships, possibly concession arrangements, which would still have the people and government of Grenada being, of course, the majority stakeholder in the airport, but encouraging private investment because capital expenditure is so crucial for assets such as airports. Where would you look for if you were going to look in the area of PPPs?
I'm not quite sure in terms of where I would look for. I mean, I know the different models, public-private partnership, which I think gives a lot of leverage in the sense that you'd be able to find some very good partners, but government still maintains a significant portion of it and retains control, which I think should happen because any model that you need to that you're going to go down, any route you're going to go down, you need to have local control of the asset because, as everybody else said, Ken and Lance and other people who you heard in the clips that was played, the airport represent the people's lifeblood. So in this respect, I think public-private partnership would be a good way to go. Now, I don't know the players in the game. The government would have to find them. But I think even before you do that, there has to be an in-depth feasibility to determine what are the issues that you're facing. Because you may find out when you do the feasibility that you don't really need to go public-private partnership. Maybe you could do it yourself. Because I'm not quite sure about the problems of the airport. It has all been blown out of proportion now with Mr. Suarez's comment. Everybody's saying, well, the airport is not making money. Some say it's making money. I don't know. There has to be, again, like everything else in Grenada, there need to be transparency. How is this airport doing? Let's see the books. Let's have a report to determine financially, is it making money or is it a money pit that we keep pouring good money after bad money, right? So it means that we need to make an assessment because the airport has been in operation a number of years now. It needs a number of upgrades. I understand that. That's quite clear. But we need to know why we're upgrading and what we're upgrading. So we need the feasibility first, and then we can begin to determine where we need to go.
All right.
I think I agree with you fully, Montgomery, on that one, especially in terms of the issue of more information. I think the government has to indicate clearly what is the financial position of the airport at this point, and then that would inform a far more perspicacious discussion on the issue. Odette?
Yeah, I was indicating to us that we have a call on the line, so we want to entertain that and we continue the discussions. Caller, good evening.
Yes, good evening. I'll be extremely brief. Good evening to your guests there, Lancelot and Ken. Actually, I don't know the other chap. Anyway, listen, my name is John Roller, citizen John Roller this year. Could you participate in the construction of that airport? I felt extremely hurt with the interventions of that gentleman, if I were to call him that, from wherever he came from. But I want to touch particularly on this issue of efficiency at that international airport. Listen. We were fortunate in 1984, 85, 86 with the intervention of the Canadian government who helped us to set up that airport with all systems, according to Canadian systems through Transport Canada, through the Caribbean Airport Project. It was rolled out for all Caribbean countries. I was fortunate to attend 4 major courses in the training after having participated in the building. But I'll tell you this, brothers and sisters, and hear me well. You know what ruined that airport? Partisan demagoguery for political expediency. The politicians who ruined that airport by fitting in their cronies, incompetent, inept, nothing having to do with merit and capacity to work.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Efficiency. That is why this airport is as it is today. Have a good evening, will you?
Thank you so much. Garfield?
Well, thanks for the caller. Thanks for the caller making his intervention there. Possibly he's onto something that generally, not only with the airport, if his suggestion is correct, but in other public sector entities as well, there's always been this specter of possibly demagoguery, possibly the influence of not merit-based, but people are handed a position, handed a job, possibly because of political clientelism. Let's see. Odette, I think we have another call.
We do. Caller, good evening.
Yes, good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your guest. Good afternoon to, good evening to Mr. Ken Lewis, Central Girls Store Man. You're doing well. Now, I listen to the conversation, and it's so deep. But this airport could be profitable run, but the problem is the economy have to be doing well. Without the economy doing well, it is difficult for this airport to be run properly because, you see, the cost of travel is so high. People doesn't have the money to travel. So you'll have to have the economy going well, people having money in their pocket, and that's why I believe the airport, what you have is to get good managers, people who are going to manage the airport in the interest of the citizens and not follow the political people as we normally know it. So that, I think, is the solution to the problem. Good managers, you have to have the economy going well. People can travel because the fare is low, and I think the airport could do fantastically well.
Thank you so much. Garfield, it's back over
to you. I think the theme of that is merit-based. It's about meritocracy as opposed to entitlement, as opposed to, for example, people that's been given a position. Gentlemen, let's go quickly over to, while waiting on more calls, Odette, the panelists can then weigh in on this, another controversial issue, another lightning rod of controversy, which is whether or not COVID-19 vaccination should be mandatory. Let me start with Montgomery on this.
But wait, hold on. Hold, stick a pin there.
Okay.
The calls are coming in fast and furious. So Montgomery, hold a thought. Let's entertain this caller, and then we'll try to go to that caller. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, and good evening to your distinguished guests tonight. Quickly, the airport. An airport is a strategic asset. It does not have to be profitable in and of itself to make sense. But for what I've gathered, our airport has been profitable over the last 4 years before the onset of COVID. Now, an airport does not in and of itself make money. Traffic is what brings money to the airport. The hotel rooms that you have, the ability of your population to travel. So somebody can just take an airport and have it start making money. There are things that bring money to the airport. So someone coming out of the blue and saying, "I will make money," if you privatize it, that in itself, it doesn't really stand as an argument. I just want to leave it there for now.
Thank you so much, caller. Back over to you, Garfield.
Yes, I think that's a good point. I think it's a sound point that privatization by itself is not going to be a construct that's going to automatically result in profitability. All right, gentlemen, so let's go back over to, I think it was Ken Lewis I mentioned. Was it Montgomery, on this issue of whether or not vaccination should be made mandatory. COVID-19 vaccination should be mandatory.
The answer is no. Nobody should be forced to take any type of medical treatment unless you live in North Korea or you live in some sort of military state where the almighty ruler says you must take it. So then you have to take it. Now, here is my point. I think if we are serious about the pandemic, we should take the vaccine voluntarily, because if we do not take the vaccine, it just means that you're going to have more strains, more mutant strains, and COVID-19 is going to be with us a very long time. So I think it makes a lot of sense to take the vaccine, but it should not be mandatory. Because if you make it mandatory, you are forcing people to take medicine that they do not want, and they have their own free will as to what they want to do or what they shouldn't do. The government, I think, should try to educate people about the benefits of the vaccine. As the caller a while ago said about the airport, once there is economic traffic, once the global economy picks up, you would find a lot of the problems that we are facing now that look so very huge and gigantic. They're going to disappear, because there'll be money circulating, people would be moving, and a lot of the things would go away. And taking the vaccines, getting rid of COVID is one way to do that, one of the quickest ways. The other way is for herd immunity, and too many people are going to die. Grenada has been very lucky. It has not had maybe any significant COVID deaths, so that's good. But I still think Grenadians should take the vaccine, because they'll be interacting with people who come from countries that may bring the virus to them, so they should be protected.
Okay, Ken, what do you make of it?
Can I say I don't know?
No, we're not going to let you off so easily. We're going to ask you to come to the point.
I think it's two things. I am all for people being free and people not being able to take a vaccine. I do think with what's going on in India in particular, this is really serious. And we have to really encourage people to take the vaccine. I mean, I was reading about this thing before COVID, and you read a lot and stuff. And I mean, humankind itself was threatened by diseases before. Existence of humankind. So I think that if the government can encourage people to take the vaccine, and let me just stop a bit to congratulate Grenada. I mean, this 112,000 people have done a fantastic job. This has been one of the success story of COVID in terms of the few cases and the management of the cases. And they've pushed the government to close down the airport. When the government were trying to allow flights coming in the morning, the people said no. And they stopped flights, and that has saved us a lot. But on the vaccination, COVID is showing you what make you, how do I say again, what you get in past year, or whatever we say. COVID has shown, even if you do good at the start, you could do bad at the end. So you got to keep it up, and people should get vaccinated.
Absolutely. The race is not for the swift, but for he who endures.
Exactly.
Let me ask Lancelot on this. Lance, do you think it should... Okay, before I come to Lance, there's a call, Odette.
Yes, there's a caller. Caller, good evening.
Hi, good evening. I just want to say good night to the panelists and host of the program. But let me first address the airport situation. I think what the gentleman said regarding our service in Grenada, it was done in poor taste. But let us be real. Let us be honest. There is a problem in the way we give service here. Nobody asks us to grin and smile like pussies, but we are a bit rigid. Considering that I have traveled and seen what happened elsewhere, we're a bit rigid in the way we give service, even in the stores, even in some of the banks. Well, I think maybe the banks are the better areas of business in Grenada. But other than that, there is a problem in the way we give service, and we need to admit that. The gentleman was a bit rude in the way he addressed us. I don't think people should be terminated, but I think he should make the point that there is need for better customer service training. And as such, I don't think the airport should be privatized. But as one of the panelists said, a feasibility study should be done, and then we take it from there.
Okay.
In terms of the vaccination, nobody should force medicine down anybody's throat. But think about it. The benefit of taking the vaccine outweighs the risk. And that's how we look at things in medicine. If the benefit outweighs the risk, then it's a success. And how is the economy going to open back up if we don't give the vaccine a try?
All right. Thank you so much, caller, for that interjection there. Garfield is back over to you.
Yes, very quickly, thank you so much, Odette. Very quickly over to Lance. In terms of the vaccination, let me ask you, Lance, do you think that it is, whereas some governments will not, well, many governments will not force their citizens to take it, but in a way, the citizens will force themselves to take it when they realize what they can't do when they don't get vaccinated?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting the question. Let me first say that I have taken the vaccination. I would encourage everybody to take the vaccination. I would also echo what Ken said about Grenada's fight. They have done an excellent job as far as I can see. Looking at numbers alone, I live in a city outside of Toronto that has 120,000 people. Now, granted, the circumstances are not the same, but of that 120,000 people, there have been 3,400 cases of COVID. There has been, I think, 86 deaths. Grenada has 120,000 people, and there has been 1 death. That's a good statistic to look at. And, you know, you should commend Grenadians for what they have done. The issue of forcing citizens to take vaccinations, I disagree with Ken in a way, not Ken, Montgomery in a way, in that under normal circumstances, governments do not and cannot force you to take medications that you do not want to take. In emergencies, when governments declare emergencies, and all governments, I'm just talking across the board, they abridge your rights. When there's a state of emergency, your personal rights are secondary to the overall rights of the nation. And I think I'm leaning in that regard as it is in Grenada's case, where we really need to get vaccinations underway to protect Grenada, protect the economy. And it's a tough choice. There was a discussion of should a business person have a right to not let you in the business or have their employees vaccinated? Should a nurse be required to be vaccinated if the nurse is working in a hospital? To me, those questions, the answer is yes. I mean, let's face it. As a business person, if my clients are not going to come into my business because there's a fear that somehow they found out nobody in my business is vaccinated, and we've had, as a matter of fact, I've had just around the corner from me, one of my clients died from contracting COVID. We've had 2 employees in our office who contracted COVID. Fortunately, they have not died. So it's a very, very serious issue. And I would prefer to see it as a case of encouraging. But I am not going to tie a government's hand if they have to really enforce it.
Interesting. Odette?
You're just keeping your eye on the clock. We only have 5 minutes to wrap up time.
Yes, all right, 5 minutes. In the last 5 minutes, let me ask you, gentlemen, starting with Ken on this. In terms of a way out of this pandemic, this global pandemic, the worst since the 1918 Spanish flu, vaccination obviously is going to give us a shot in the arm, literally and figuratively. But there is a reticence among some individuals to take the vaccine. Education. Do you think that enough is being done in Grenada by the authorities to provide that public education to counter the conspiracy theories and the anti-vaxxers, etc.? Do you think enough is being done? What more can be done?
Well, there's to be honest, one of my friends sent this yesterday, and I really like it. He said, the village idiot used to be contained in the village. Now the village idiot is on the internet, so he can get the whole world, you know. And
he has a bullhorn. He has a bullhorn.
Exactly,
now.
He has a bullhorn. So now, with all of this propaganda going on, it's very difficult to get people to take vaccinations. I mean, we grew up taking vaccinations, you know, for TB and for measles and other stuff. So I really wish that people would get into it, that people would get more knowledge, but that people will eventually take it. Because like I said, what I saw in New York last year in March to May, no people should go through that. You know, this is just every day you're hearing somebody you know is gone, somebody you know, and people can't even see their loved ones when they are being buried. It's tragic.
Absolutely, especially the situation in India is just absolutely nightmarish, almost apocalyptic. Let me go up to Montgomery quickly. Montgomery, if the government, let's ask this another way. So the government should not force, as you mentioned, individuals to take it. Should the government then fire you, have the right to fire you if you don't take it?
These are two extremes in terms of the government firing you if you don't take it. Now, the government can make it a condition of work, but it's very draconian. As Lance said, a business owner could make it a condition of his workers getting vaccinated to protect his business. All these are possible. The cruise ships and the airlines could make it a condition of flying or something. So at the end of the day, this is what's going to happen. And people are going to figure that out. COVID is going to be around for a very long time. The people who today refuse to take COVID vaccine, tomorrow they're going to be chasing around to see if they find the COVID vaccine, because there are going to be variants, and the people who are vaccinated, they're going to experience it less severe than those who are not vaccinated. You're going to have a lot more death than you should have had. So people are going to come around at some point in time, but it's going to be too late. So the government shouldn't make it a condition of work, but the government has a right, if it believes that it wants to protect the other workers in the workplace, to make it such a condition. But I wouldn't advocate for that. That is not the way to go. The way to go is to persuasion, to education, and to get people to understand the benefit of doing it. You always have a better outcome when people could see what is in it for them, rather than pushing it down their throat.
Thank you so much for that, Montgomery. Finally, to Lance, we have like about 30 to 40 seconds. Do you believe in vaccine passports? Should Grenada go the way of vaccine passport?
Well, it may be inevitable. And if it's inevitable, then Grenada would be participating. We had forms of vaccine passports when we had to have our needles before we traveled. Today, some people cannot go to Africa without a malaria vaccination. So it's not anything new. You know, history can teach us what we need to do. So it's not anything new that, passport vaccinations.
All right. Right on time. You're perfect on time. Lance, really appreciate it. Lance, Garraway, Montgomery Alexander, Ken Lewis, really appreciate it. Back over to you, Odette.
Thank you so much. And I want to say a very special thanks to my co-host this evening, Mr. Garfield Bufford, our Jamaican friend, resident in Antigua. And I tell you, he's got such a huge following in the Caribbean region and in the diaspora as well. Garfield, I have somebody here who's saying, can you please bring back Garfield next week? He listens to your reports. That's our producer here, Mike Alexis. And he's just head over heels. And yeah, he's a good guy. You don't have to worry and put any middle meaning in terms of what that means, right? So.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hi to Michael, and again, it has been fantastic being with you, fantastic being with your team, and also these three distinguished gentlemen. They've been extraordinarily measured in their views, very perspicacious. I'm impressed by their logic and their reasoning. Certainly, fantastic evening.
It's been three great finds this evening. Mr. Lance Garraway, he wants everybody to know he's a former teacher at Heinze. Mr. Montgomery Alexander wants to ensure that Ladig, Holy Innocents Anglican, knows that he was in the teaching profession. And we have Ken Lewis, a former teacher at the National College. And they have other accolades that we attributed at the start of the program. We want to say thank you so much, and to every person who contributed toward helping find our panelists this evening. I want to say a very special thank you on behalf of the entire team here at the Grenada Broadcasting Network. I'm Odette Campbell saying it was great being with you. Those of you who commented on the social media feed, we say thank you so much. God bless. So long for now. We'll see you again next week if the good Lord tarries. Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Take care. All the best.
Are we off, eh?
Yes, I think we're off now. We're off.